Hi, this is Roger from Kanka Labs, today with an update to a previous M-Show video, what every maker should have one of, about pocket calculators for engineers, especially electrical engineers. Now the conclusion or the recommendation of that video was that probably the best pocket calculator ever made for electrical engineers is the Casio FX61F, thanks to David L. Jones, who points this calculator out again and again. I didn't know a few years ago about this model from Casio. So let's do a short summary just to point out what's so special about this calculator. The most important thing is that you can make direct impedance calculations, and you have this wonderful parallel resistor or parallel impedance key. So let's make an example. We want to calculate what is 45 kilo ohms parallel to, let's say, 18 kilo ohms. And that gives, if we go into engineering display, 12.857 kilo ohms. So that's nice. And when we want to do impedance calculation, we can work with resistors, inductors, capacitors, just as with normal numbers. Let's start with, we have to define first the frequency that we are doing our calculations. Let's say we want to do it at 1 kilohertz, so we put that in here with F in, frequency in. If we want to know the omega of this 1 kilohertz, that is 2 pi times the frequency, or 6.2832 kilohertz, just for checking. And now we take a, let's say, a capacitor of 47 nanofarad. We press the capacitor symbol. Now we get immediately in impedance mode the impedance of our capacitor as minus 3.3863 kilo ohms, and we want to parallel this, so we can parallel or add or take the reciprocal just as with normal numbers. So we parallel this with a, let's say, 27k ohmic resistor, and that gives us a total impedance of these two paralleled elements of 4.18, or if you go into engineering display, 418.12 ohms. So that's really a feature you find at no other calculator ever made. And furthermore, you have these built-in formulas. You have, as you could see, the engineering prefixes here, like milli, kilo, mega, pico, nano, micro, etc. here predefined. So you can do very quick calculations with the units of your elements. And so this is really nice, but as with everything else in the world, nothing comes without a price. And the price here is, of course, they had to use from the 4 rows of function keys, which is typical for the scientific or engineering calculators from Casio, that you have 4 instead of 3 rows of function keys. They had to sacrifice some direct keys. For example, try to search where is the key for reciprocal, which you need very often, and where is it hidden? Here as a shift functionality to the inductor. Or try to find where is the square function. Here, that is a shift to the square root. Where is the exponential raise function? Here as a shift to the multiply symbol. So that's what you pay for to get the keys here freed for your electrical calculations. So this calculator is only, if you're hunting for it on eBay, it appears once or twice a year only. And so what alternatives do you have if you can't get the Casio FX61F? And for that purpose, let's first of all define what we want as the most important direct keys in a scientific calculator for engineers. So some things or keys should be self-evident, but as we'll later see, they aren't, like the 10 raised to the x power, or usually it's the exponential key. And we of course need a direct key for changing the sign of the mantissa or of the exponent. And we need a direct key for the number pi, which is also not on every calculator. So then we have the basic algebraic functions like the reciprocal, the square root, squaring. What else do we get? The log base 10, the natural logarithm base e. We should have the inverse functions to that, which is this is not here the exponential scientific notation. It's the inverse of the logarithm and the inverse function to the natural logarithm. So what else could we have on the direct keys? Of course, x raised to the y power. That's it. And of course we should be able to have a direct display in engineering units, which means that the scientific display just goes in multiples of 3. And what would be ideal is that we have separate keys for the engineering prefixes like giga, mega, kilo, milli, micro, pico, and nano. Not in the right order, but you know what I mean. So this is quite unique to Casio calculators, that you have extra keys for these, although they are shift functions. So, and now let's count how many of these direct accessible keys we have, for example, on the best available HP calculators, which also was in that first video, the HP 35S that you still can buy new. Oh, I've forgotten, of course, sine, cosine, and tangent. So let's count how many of these functions we have on direct keys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus minus 7. This is the exponential, 8. And that was it. 8 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's leave here these out. So we should have at least 15 direct keys for these most used functions. And we get just half of that, even on a HP calculator of today's vintage. So that's quite disappointing, and it doesn't get any better if you look at modern Casio calculators that you get. This is a basic scientific calculator. As you can see, it has only 3 rows, as opposed to what I call the engineering calculators from Casio, which have 4 function rows. And let's count here what we have on direct keys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And pi is also a direct key. You can see if we don't have anything else pressed, then pressing the exponential key in fact gets pi on the display. So we only have 9 out of 15, and this is really even the best available Casio calculator today, which you can buy new. And this is another modern Casio calculator, especially used for schools. This is even the German issue of this calculator, and this is, don't buy this one. I really hate this one, and I can show you why. Instead of 1 over x, they call it x to the minus 1. So let's just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have even a dedicated engineering, that is 10, 11. Let's see if we can get pi here direct. No, you see for here this doesn't directly bring pi. You have to, in fact, you have to press shift pi. And this graphic, really don't buy this one. So this is really unusable. So really the best you can get on today's market as a new calculator from Casio is this one, which is not very satisfying, although it looks very similar to classical Casio calculators concerning the layout of the functionalities, but there's a lot missing because they left out one row of keys. So I couldn't rest until I found a series of vintage Casio calculators which you can easily, for less than 10 euros or dollars, buy used in good condition on eBay from Casio, which are the next best thing to getting most of our functions here on direct keys. And when I found the first one of this series, I googled for the manual, and I found, I will give you the link, and there's a whole series which have a common manual, and you can read here, it is the FX100D. Important is always the exact numbering and lettering. As you can see, they all have this D, and this D seems to stand for a special engineering type of keyboard layout. So it's the FX100D, 115D, 570AD, 570CD, 570D, and 991D. And you should Google or search on eBay exact for the one of these types. And the only difference between them is they have, I'll show you two examples of them, which I just got last week on eBay. One was for, I don't know, 7 euros. The other one was for 8 or 9 euros. And you can see the basic difference. So here we have the FX115D. It has a gray background for the keyboard. It has a solar cell plus a battery inside, so you have this dual power. It has an external plastic hardcover, and you can of course take the calculator out of that. Oh, this one is very used, heavily used. And the other one comes with this traditional wallet, where you also have still place for the manual, etc. And you can see this one does not have a solar cell, and it has a metallic or champagne colored or light gray background for the keyboard. So the differences are minimal. It's basically the power source, different batteries, combinations of battery and solar power, and the background color of the keyboard. And there's one minor difference that is mentioned in the manual, and that is, you can see here on the uppermost row, here on the FX115D, I'll show you an example. We have separate keys for the engineering mode, which is here with the alphanumeric symbol. So instead of the scientific display, if you press the engineering key, you get in fact the alphanumeric prefix. Of course, it makes no sense to take 45 as 45,000 milli, but if you want to do it in the other direction, then you just press this way and you go through the different prefixes up to giga or tera. They did not imply. So we have a direct alphanumeric display: giga, mega, kilo, milli, micro, and it doesn't go on. Let's try another. Yeah, now it goes on, nano, etc., etc. Even femto, and that was it. So atto, they didn't implement atto, farad or whatever. So I've zoomed in a bit just to see the differences a little better. And on the other series, this has only one engineering key. It's the same functionality that you get an alphanumeric display, you can see here. And to go in the other direction, here we have to use the shift key. So, and you can see the contrast of the LCD looks a little bit worse than here at the FX115D. And it looks like that the plastic here, the transparent plastic, is a little bit frosted. I don't know why they did this. Perhaps to avoid reflections a bit better. Let's see. Yeah, okay, this gives less reflections, but they sacrificed a bit of the contrast there. So, and the rest of the keyboard layout is basically identical. I think the readability of the secondary functions is a bit better here on the metallic background or the light gray background. For example, let's take the engineering prefixes here. You can read them much better and find them much better here than here on this dark gray background. So let's just count how many of our ideally present direct keys we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, because again we have the pi. Here the pi is here hardly readable, while here on the metallic background it's much better. So we have 13 out of 15 if I counted it the right way. The only thing where we have to use the shift key is 10 to the x power, or the inverse of the natural logarithm. So we can live with that. And we have the bonus that we have the engineering prefixes here with a shift key, and we have scientific display as well as engineering display directly with the alphanumeric symbol. So if you don't like that, you just turn the engineering mode off with mode dot, and then turn on instead the scientific mode with mode 8 with 4 decimal places, and then you have your normal scientific display. Nevertheless, you can press the engineering key, but then you don't get the alphanumeric symbol, but you get it just as you are used to, that the exponent is just rounded to multiples of 3, and we can go on in any directions with that, always with multiples of 3. And you have your nicely available calculations in binary or hex display, and direct functions for that, like NOT, AND, OR, XOR, XNOR. And you can, here with negative, you get the 2's complement. So I think this is really the next best thing. If you don't get the FX61F, get one out of these series and decide for yourself which you like more, with or without solar cell, with a plastic hardcover or the wallet style with a metallic background and the frosted display with a little bit less contrast, but therefore less reflection prone. And there's another one, a Radio Shack EC4032, which also appeared in one of the last EEV Blog YouTube videos. This Radio Shack calculator is obviously a rebranded Casio FX. I think it's the FX 115D. So compare still pictures of the layout of the FX 115D and the Radio Shack EC4032. They are nearly identical, but the Radio Shack calculator sells for more money on eBay, and it's only available from US on the US eBay site, because it obviously was only sold by Radio Shack / Tandy in the USA. So anyway, I think here for less than $10, get one out of this series, or I even have bought here for the lab 2 to start with, and I will buy still a few more just to have on every table one good Casio Engineering calculator available. So that was it for today. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you have other suggestions for your favorite engineering pocket calculator, just leave a message down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye from Roger, bye from Kainka Labs.